Okay, so today we are going to talk about the follow-up interview email. You want to know if you got hired, you want to know feedback from your interview, but you don't want to be annoying, you don't want to be pushy, but you just really want to know. You have so much going on, you want this job, and I totally understand. I have definitely been there, and there's definitely a balance of the timing and what to say and how to say it and how to remind them that you're qualified and that you're excited about this opportunity. There's a lot that can go into this email, and I want to really break it down for you. So let's get into it. Hey, welcome to Robin Writers. I am Becca. Before we get into the interview follow-up email today, I wanted to talk to you about the free gift that I have to offer you. This is a total guide on how to create writing samples for your portfolio. No matter how little or how much experience you have with professional writing, I have a whole guide and a list of ideas of what types of writing samples that you can create without even having to get hired, without having to track down clients to get assigned something and have a writing sample you got paid for. There are so many ways that you can create writing samples without just on your own from scratch, and I wanted to break that down for you and hopefully help you, get a good start on showing what you got. So you can find the link to access my guide in the description below, and I hope that really helps you. This is something that I use myself for writing samples, and I'm excited to see what it can do for you. All right, so let's get into this email. The first thing that I want to talk about is the subject line. This is something that I think for a while I was so focused on the content of the actual email that I was not really focusing on the actual subject line. And the subject line is so important because that is the first interaction that someone will have with your email. And if it doesn't stand out, if it's not good, if it doesn't entice someone to click on the email, then all that work that you put into writing your email is for nothing, and we don't want that to happen. We want to have a great subject line, something that will capture someone's attention and entice them to open it. And especially for the interview process, you want them to see you. You want to stand out. And the subject line that I use, I think, has definitely helped me stand out, and I get responses. So obviously people are opening them. So what you want to do is include your first name, your last name, the job title, and the words interview follow-up. The reason why you want to include your name first is because hopefully they will remember that from the interview. So when they see your name, they'll be like, oh, that's Becca who just interviewed for my role. So because hopefully this is about a week or so after you have interviewed, so your name is kind of fresh in their minds, and that will just kind of capture their attention right away anyway. You also want to include the job title because you want to remind that they're probably holding so many interviews for so many different people and roles and everything. You don't want them to have to be like, oh, Becca, I remember her, but what role was she applying to? I had 10 interviews last week for 7 different roles, and you don't want to make them work to remember exactly who you are. So that's why you want to include the job title and the subject line. And then you want to include interview follow-up because that's just being upfront, straight to the point of exactly what this email is, the follow-up to your interview. So first name, last name, job title, interview, follow-up. So if I was applying for a content writer job, I would say Becca Fengbach, content writer, interview, follow-up. Simple as that, so they know exactly who it is, what role they're applying to, and what the purpose of the email is. All right, so once they open up your email due to your awesome subject line, you want your greeting to be appropriate to what kind of environment that this new job is going to be in. So if you can, hopefully you either got the names of the person or the people who you interviewed with, or you have, if you don't have their exact email addresses, there's probably an HR person or a recruiter or somebody who you were in contact with prior to the interview. So you definitely want to use people's names as much as possible. You want it to be personal. You want it to look like you were paying attention and that you were careful to learn their names. All these little details, they're little, but they count so much. So definitely have your names ready. Any email address that you have, anyone you were in contact with, make sure you have all that information with you. So first of all, there's a few different ways you can start your email. And this is another such a small detail, but I think it really makes a big impact, and it shows how you were paying attention to the environment and the type of people that you're going to be working with. So if it was a pretty casual environment, you can kind of tell by what people were wearing, what the office looked like, kind of the vibe during the interview. You know, you'll be able to know if this was, a pretty casual place or maybe more formal. So in the case where it's a little more casual, you might just say, so if your interviewer's name was Samantha, let's say, you would say, "Hi, Samantha, comma." A good hi is totally fine. And the comma is good too. The comma is important. We'll talk about other punctuation to use. But, if it was something like pretty casual, pretty chill, I just use hi, person's name, comma. That usually gets the job done. But if you had a more formal environment, you might want to use the person's name, so in this case, Samantha, with a colon. And a lot of times, instead of the comma, a colon is kind of more formal, and that's usually just how you would start it out with the comma. And I think the colon here just really is the most important part to kind of signal the formality of it all. And then if you don't have the specific names of the person that you interviewed with, you're going to want to send this email to HR or the recruiter, whoever you were in contact with, to schedule the interview. You'll want to use their names and use the still formal or semi-casual greeting, and then just indicate that you want them to forward this on to the person or the people who you interviewed with, and then kind of tab down in the email, and then start off the greeting as if they were just going to copy and paste your message to the interviewers and email it to them. So either way, you'll want to include the greeting for the HR recruiter and then a second greeting for the people who you interviewed with, and they should probably both be the same. If you did the colon for the HR or the recruiter, you'll want to do the colon for the people who you interviewed with, just to keep it all consistent. Okay, so that's the greeting. That's also good. That's the first impression. That's how you start off the whole email. So I think that's also important. So now we want the message. This is the body of the email. This is the meat of the email, and we want it to be strong, and we want it to make an impact. Now, the first thing that I am paying most attention to is the first sentence that I write. And for a while, this is something that I realized recently. For a while, I noticed that a lot of times I say just. I start the sentence with just, like just wanted to follow up, just wanted to know, just wanted to ask. And I read somewhere, I totally forget where I read it, but I read somewhere that if you take out just, your sentence becomes immediately more direct and just a stronger sentence. You just come off more confident that way. So instead of saying, just wanted to follow up on my interview, if you say, I wanted to follow up on my interview, it immediately becomes that much more of a stronger sentence. You get right to the point. You say exactly what you want. Just kind of weakens the sentence. So you want to remain confident. You want to remain strong and direct, so that you just show them what you got. So that's the first thing. Take out just, and you're off to a good start. So first of all, after you don't say just, I would start off with, I wanted to follow up on the status of my interview, something like that. You'll want to summarize the position that you're applying for and the date that you interviewed, so that, again, they don't have to look back in their notes to say, oh, Becca interviewed for the content writer, but when was their interview? I've been interviewing so many people these days, and you just have to really put yourself in their shoes and know that they have so much going on probably, and so many candidates if they're actively searching for a new person. You want to make this as simple as possible for them. So reiterate what position you're applying for and what date that you interviewed, because also if you say the date that you interviewed, they'll remember, oh, it's been a week, oh, it's been 2 weeks, oh, it's been, whenever you write this email, that'll kind of remember them, like, oh, I should probably get on this and tell them what's happening with this role. So great detail to put in there. Next, you want to reiterate why you are interested in this role. Even though you just spent a whole interview talking about it and through your application process and everything, you want to reiterate why you are interested and why you are qualified. And this doesn't have to be a whole essay or a whole paragraph even, or it just has to be a couple simple points to remind them the most important things about you that make you the best fit for this role. And that's also going to help them not have to search through their notes to remember, oh, did I like Becca? Did I not like Becca? It's just another step of the way where you're reminding them who you are and what you're about, and so that they don't have to rack their brains on who the heck you are and remind themselves if they liked you, if they didn't, if whatever. So just reiterate a sentence or two, why you're qualified, why you're interested. All right. Then to make them work even less, you want to also attach your resume, your cover letter, and any writing samples or any other materials that you used during the interview, so that they, again, don't have to search through their notes or emails or folders in their computer to find exactly what you talked about, what kind of stuff that you provided to them. You just want everything right there in this one email. So again, that's your resume, cover letter, writing samples. Include the links if you have a portfolio, if you have a blog, if you have any other websites or anything that you wanted them to remember that you did. Include the links to everything in this email. Just lay it all out there and make it super simple for them to just remember exactly what you're about, what you did. That's super important. And they'll be really impressed that you thought that far, even including the resume and cover letter, even though at this point they might not need everything that you'll attach to this email. It's just being super thorough, and it's showing how organized you are, how thorough you are, how enthusiastic and serious that you're taking this opportunity, and not having to make them work, because that's also going to translate to the actual job itself. There's going to be times during this job probably that you're going to want to be thorough and have everything organized and have everything that you need. You just want to show how organized and upfront you are about things. All right, and again, this doesn't have to be a super long body of your email. This can be brief but strong. Choose your words wisely. You can say a lot of different things about yourself using less words and more direct, and that also kind of shows off your writing skills too. If you can, write strong and direct and include a lot in less words and not be as wordy and not be as, long-winded. Be direct, be brief, be catchy, be punchy. So now that you got past the body of the email, you want to end it well too. You want to leave off on a good impression, just like you want to start off with a good impression. So now is for the salutation and the signature. So depending on if you had a casual kind of environment or a formal environment, sincerely usually works well. A lot of times I use best, like best, Becca, sincerely, Becca, best regards, Becca, warmly, kind of choose. Everyone has their own kind of style when they're ending emails. And then there's more. When you write your name, be sure to include your phone number under your name. This is yet another way to not make your interviewer, your potential employer, the HR person, the recruiter, not have to work to find your information. If they read this follow-up email and they're like, oh my gosh, that's right, we just had a meeting and we decided on hiring her or not hiring her, we made a decision, this is my time to follow up with this person. They don't have to search through their files to find your contact information. You're going to provide it right there because you want them to contact you. So just don't make them work to find that information. That is really the best way to do it. Just have your name and your contact information in as many places as possible. That will make the process better for them and more likely for them to contact you either way, because you're showing how thorough you are and how much you want this opportunity. So whether or not that they want you to hire you, you're going to show them that you're not going to make them work to contact you and learn exactly who you are and remind them who you are. So that is always super important for me. And it's kind of like, think about it like when you're marketing for whatever business that you're working for, whether it's your own freelance business or whether it's for an employer. You don't want potential customers or clients to have to work to find your contact information or work to remember who you are. This is all about branding, essentially. This is your personal brand. And you want to make it easy for people to contact you and engage with you. So, if we apply our marketing skills to the interview process, that just further shows, how you understand how a brand works. Because like I said, it's your personal brand that you're marketing basically throughout this whole process. So if we think about it like that, we don't want people to have to work to find who you are and how to contact you. If people are interested in you or interested in talking to you, you want everything right there front and center. So if you include your name and your phone number in as many places as possible, like I said, that makes it so much easier and increases the likelihood of someone contacting you. So that is the gist of the email. And I think all these elements are really important to include to make sure that you really stand out, because this market, the interview process is tough enough. The application process is tough enough. You worked so hard to get to this point. You got them to notice you from your application. You got them to want to talk to you more in person or virtual. You've done so much up until this point. You want to continue that positive momentum, and you want to continue to reiterate who you are and why you're the best fit. It's not annoying if you do it in a professional way, and if you are genuinely enthusiastic about this opportunity, and if everything went well up until this point, your potential employer is probably not going to be annoyed by you reaching out. I think people are scared to do a follow-up email or to continue to follow up because they're afraid of looking annoying. But put yourself in their shoes. If you have 10 people who you're interviewing for this one role, and you're like, all these 10 people, and they could all be great candidates. You could say all these 10 people have great qualities. They could probably all fit into this role. They could probably all fit in with the rest of the team. They could probably all add some kind of value to the company and to the department. How do I choose? And a lot of times it's who shows that they want it more. This whole thing, and this is what I realized. I tweaked so much about how when I was actively in the job search, I was really focused on the fact that I probably had the same level of skills or similar than some of my competition that was getting these jobs over me. And I was like, well, if it's a semi-even playing field for the level of skill or experience that I'm bringing to the table, what other ways can I do to stand out in this whole interview process that can be messy and stressful and just crazy enough? And it's kind of about who wants it more at that point, because I could be going up against someone who has the same skills as me, but if they're just like, yeah, I did this and this is like, if they just kind of like go through the motions and they just expect their resume and their interview to kind of speak for itself, which is what I was relying on for a while, that's awesome. And I'm sure that they interviewed well and their application was strong and everything was great. But if they're not really showing that they want this job, but you are, and you have just as much experience as them, the likelihood of you getting this role over them is probably pretty high. Because like, as an employer, I'm putting myself in their shoes. If I have two equally qualified candidates who could do this job great, but one person is saying, hey, look at me, don't forget about me, and I really want this job, and I'm excited, and I want to do this, and blah, blah, blah. And then the other person is like, I'm not really hearing from them, but they're qualified. It just feels like, why would I not choose the person who's showing genuine enthusiasm for this opportunity, and the other person kind of isn't? So the more that I was going through this interview process and application process about a year and a half ago or so, that's really what it came down to for me. And part of it was that I probably had competition that had more maybe full-time experience than I did, because I had a lot of freelance experience and a lot of different types of experience that maybe was a little bit different from my competition, but it was still it still came out to like a similar amount of experience. It was just different experience. And so I really just had to find some ways to stand out, because I knew what I was up against. I knew there's other very strong writers out there and marketing specialists who knew what they were talking about. And I did too, but I wanted to show that I wanted it more. So keep that in mind. I think that really goes a long way. And this, when you're doing the follow-up email, this is a great way to continue that momentum, to really stand out and to show your enthusiasm. So don't feel like you're being annoying. Don't feel like you're just kind of nagging your employer. As long as you do it professionally and you're showing genuine enthusiasm, I think that's something that they would really appreciate, and that will kind of help them throughout the process make decisions. If someone is really showing that they want it and they're qualified, it's just really helping the process. So I've never felt annoying or bad about sending a follow-up email. I think it's a very useful tool to help you stand out from your competition. So that's my spiel about standing out amongst your competition, especially at this stage in the game. This is after your interview. You want to get this job at this point. All right. So just to reiterate, you want the subject line with your full name, the title of the job that you interviewed for, and the words interview follow-up. Okay. And then you want to include a specific greeting for the specific person that you interviewed with, and the appropriate greeting depending on how formal or how casual the interview environment was. You do not want to write just in your opening sentence. Take that out and start off strong and direct. That is always good. And in the body of your email, you want to include why you're most qualified and why you want the position. Very briefly, nothing too long-winded or anything, just briefly, okay? You want to attach all interview materials. That's including your resume, your cover letter, writing samples, links to your online portfolio, links to wherever you had talked about in your interview, anything that was relevant. You want to include that in this follow-up email. You want to include a nice salutation, whatever is most appropriate, based off of the type of people you were interviewing with or what type of environment that the interview was taking place in with the company. All right. And then you want to end with your full name at the bottom of the email, first and last name, and your phone number right below your name. Do not forget the phone number. I think that is so important. These are the 10 things that you definitely want to include in this follow-up email. All right, so here is my example. So first, the subject would be, like I said, Becca Fengvath, content writer, interview follow-up. Then, assuming that it is a casual environment, I would say, hi, with their name, comma. It was a pleasure meeting with you on interview date for the content writer opportunity. I wanted to follow up if there is anything more I can do for you. Again, I am still confident that I would be a great addition to the team due to my diverse writing background that I can apply to this role, such as blogging, social media, and email marketing skills. Please see my resume and cover letter attached and see my writing portfolio here with the words here linked to my portfolio. I look forward to hearing back from you. Best, Becca Fengvath, and my phone number underneath. All right, so that's really the gist. And most of the time, I would probably send this email in the time frame that they said that they would get back to you by, because a lot of times they might not get back. The truth is, they probably won't get back to you in the time frame that they expected to get back to you by. I've learned this, and it's probably just because this process is chaotic and they have a lot going on top of their regular job responsibilities. If it's not an HR person or recruiter, this person is probably a manager of a department, and they've got so much going on and all these decisions they have to make on top of deciding who to fill this role. So if they told you we're expecting to get an answer back within a week, and it's been a week and you haven't heard from them and it's kind of midday or so, that's when I would send this follow-up email. If they say it's going to be a couple weeks, I would wait maybe 2 weeks and then send a follow-up email. If they weren't sure or they did not say when they would get back to you, about a week I still would follow up. It doesn't hurt if you're genuine, if you're being positive, if it was a positive interview, if it seemed like you were vibing, if they liked you. This interview follow-up email is not going to turn them away from you in my experience. I always feel like people have appreciated my follow-up emails to interviews. All right, so I really hope that helps you. This is something, again, that I feel very strongly about. This is one of the last touch points that you'll make with them before they make a decision. So you want it to be strong, you want to stand out, you want it to leave an impact on them. If you include all these things, I don't know what else, for me, I don't know what else that I could even include in a follow-up email that would be more convincing or more helpful for them throughout this whole process. This is really checking all the boxes. This is really just being so thorough and including everything that you have done up until this point with them into one email, so they have it all there right in front of them. And I don't know what much more they could ask from you. So thank you for watching. I hope this helped you. Good luck in your interview application, interview follow-up process, the whole thing. You can do this. Just keep working. Just keep staying true to yourself. Follow your passions, and have a fabulous day.